screen. It's actually an American flag inside the net.
When we tell you that this game is international, we really do mean that, because it is round 3 of the Simrigs Sprint Series, and of course, we're down here in South Africa. The rains have, of course, been blessed as this track is damp. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nick Amon, and I want to welcome you back to another broadcast of the Simrigs Sprint Series. Joining me in the booth, as always, is going to be Mr. Kevin Parody. Kevin, it's good to see you again.
It's good to be here again. Always fun at Kyalami, and always fun with a track that is anything but dry.
Well, certainly so. Drivers right now just in qualifying. In just a few minutes, I'm going to talk to Glenn about setting the start time of this back, or Mullick, or whoever it is, because I like to have a little bit of time in quali or in practice to get some chats going. But we are here in quali. It is Landry on top. A 1:45.3 is the time to beat. We were not here last week, of course. We had our Bathurst 12-hour, which I had some stint time in, which was a lot of fun. But not only that, we've got the actual Bathurst 12-hour coming up.
It's on, right within, I believe they did qualifying today, their time, and I think it's about 24 hours from now, if I'm not horribly mistaken, involving time zones and all that foolishness. But yes, it's definitely real live car racing, just for something different.
Yep, I'm certainly excited. I caught a bit of practice today as before stream, so I'll have to make sure I get everything else sorted out before then, because that is definitely one of the races I always look forward to every year, as do many people in the sim racing community, and even just the regular racing community. But for right now, we got to stick with Kyalami. Just about 8 minutes to go with some spare change. At the moment, though, it is this man right here, Skylar Lovering, with a very good-looking livery for Jean Alesi Esports, who has won the last 3 races we had. He won the back-to-backs and the solos that we had just the last few weeks in the season. Do we think that Skylar does it again?
First of all, yes, super kudos on the livery. That was worth the wait. I don't see anybody stopping him, I think, is my answer to the second part. I'd love to say so-and-so's got a shot or so-and-so's got a shot, but I need to see more evidence that somebody can keep up with them at this point.
Yeah, it's been incredible, because he's been on another level this entire time, whether we're talking about the Sprint Series or we're talking about something like one of our endurance events. And I actually need to apologize for those that were here when we ran the 12-hour last week. I was there right at the start, and as we were getting ready for greens to start flying, I commented on the team that Landry was on, or not Landry, excuse me, Loverink. It was the Bricks Racing 52 Aston Martin, which had Loverink, of course, Rasco, Frizza, and Landry. I did sing their praises, very well deserved. I mean, we've seen them just come alive every single race, whether we're talking this season, last season, it doesn't matter. I said that they were one of North America's powerhouse teams, and that was true. And then they got spun or crashed, and then they did it again, and then they did it again, and then I think it happened one more time after that, and they retired the car. So to the entire 52 squad, I'm sorry. I didn't think I was gonna do that, so it was not my intention.
And now you made me laugh at all of them, so now I probably owe them an apology too.
No, it's fine.
That has got to be. That's got to be heartbreaking in a 12-hour event. You can tell yourself we've got time all you want, but that second, third, fourth time you have an incident, that gets harder and harder not to accidentally hit that escape button one too many times.
Yeah, it's disheartening that first time, because then it kind of messes with your mental a little bit. You think, oh God, am I going to do it again? Yeah. And it's bad when you just got in the car and you just gave your teammate a break, and you know the third guy and the fourth guy aren't going to be there, so you have to just reset. You have to get back into the swing of things.
And if I'm honest, that's one of the reasons why I don't do endurance racing. I don't want to be that guy that spins the car and starts the process. So, I don't mind taking myself out of a race. I don't mind taking myself out of a race, but the idea of 3 people sitting in 3 chairs around the world somewhere, all trying not to look disappointed, is too much for me. So I'll just commentate instead.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. I think we're better at that anyways. But we're just under 5 minutes of qualifying. Huge shout out. We had a couple late additions, but we had a couple people who missed first. Mitch Sundorf right now in 19th with a 152.02 in the, well, aptly named M. Summendorf McLaren 329 amateur rating. So this, I believe, is his first race this season. I think he missed the first 2. So he'll be looking to sort of make his mark here. And of course, I'm going to assume it's Craig Puckett. I'm imagining, I didn't realize he was in this race, and I always, say like, oh, I'm gonna ask this person their name and this person their name. But Craig right now is in the McLaren. He is in 18th, just ahead of the last man we talked about, but he has over a second advantage over his fellow McLaren driver. Kevin, I'm thinking that there are some guys out there who maybe don't have wet setups, because the gaps in our qualifying times are immense. I mean, first to 20th is almost 8 seconds.
That I think some of it might be that, some of it might be people trying, showing up without a wet setup or without even any practice in the wet. The other thing though is rain, especially damp track, can stretch out a field. I don't mean to comment on any person in particular, but the talent shows in the wet, and I think that might be some of that telescoping effect we're seeing there. But what I am noticing is it's going to dry up. So they qualified in the wet, but depending on what the start time of the race is relative to the end of qualifying, they may be starting on even a green track.
That would be, I mean, obviously more ideal. You have that extra little bit of grip, and of course you can convert that into just better results overall. Darren Wicks right now looking to improve. He's not going to move up. He is going to just take another couple tenths off Doggins there, just under a tenth. So let's say we do go into a dry race, Kevin. We all know what Kyalami does. Okay, if anybody saw it in the intro card, you saw some lettering in the bottom right. Do we think that's going to happen, or do we think we're safe because Mullock isn't here?
I will safely predict, expecting this to come true 100%, somebody at some point tonight is going to swear at the sausage curb on the inside of Cheetah.
Oh, yes, Cheetah.
It will ruin at least one race tonight, is my prediction.
That's a bold prediction. Actually, not even bold. I'd say that's pretty standard. In fact, speaking of Cheetah, we could give Craig some time because he's pulling up to it rather soon.
Well, the nice thing with Cheetah is, yes, it will flip you off into the gravel. Yes, it might even flip you off into the gravel and into the wall, but the pit entry is right there. So at least you don't have to drive halfway around the track with a wrecked car.
Yeah, I guess the track designers were nice enough. All right, Craig, excuse me. Let's see what you can do. Very conservative line. He was not risking it at all. And I don't blame him when you have almost a second just about over on your PB. I feel like you kind of just take it easy, but this will be his final attempt, so he may have to risk it if he wants to start ahead of Shirley.
That's where you tell yourself that one was a banker lap, and then you go for it on this one.
No, he's stopping. He's
okay, yeah,
calling it.
As you said, though, if you look down and you see a PB, you see that personal best, sometimes you go, okay, just sit here, get my setup ready before, just take a breath.
Augusto from 10th to 3rd with a 45.43. That is the kind of improvement you want to see out of any driver.
The track has just gone to greasy, so that's one of those wait till the last moment and you're going to get the best track conditions. It has just gone from damp to greasy, so yeah, we're going to see. This might, and Loverink right away back up on top. Oh, no, still pardon me, still on top.
He's still there. He is. We could be seeing a 44. I'd be surprised. Keaton Miley, another new driver here, was on an improvement, just went off track, but I think has enough time to make it back to the start-finish line. Possibly? No, I don't. Or it's going to be close. I think if Miley can get a little bit of a hurry-up going, we could be seeing one final lap, and it looks like... Oh, God, this is actually going to be close. 2, 1. Oh, no, Miley just misses out. That was looking very good for a minute. I was fully expecting the improvement there.
Well, they can console themselves with the thought that it's not always bad to start at the back in a race like this. There will be congestion. I'm not going to say contact, but there will absolutely be congestion in the first lap. So sometimes just hanging out back there, an hour isn't that long, but it's long enough to make up some positions later.
Yep. Dan Fernandez improving the time, but not improving the position. Just a couple of tenths there to give him a bit of a buffer. One driver who is on an improvement. This man right here is Skylar Loverink. The 45.07 is there, and the 45.0 is still there. He had a tenth on the Delta. I was looking right at it. I was waiting, and then he just goes, LOL, not happening. Teases us with the 44, but maybe in the race, depending on track conditions. Andrew Wilson in the 91 Gulf entry, he is improving, but how much higher does he go? Well, he goes right up to 4th, so into the top 5. Augusto was bumped down by a couple of drivers there towards the end. And I think the only driver left out is Austin Shirley from Canada at Cheetah. He's right on the edge of control there, chucking it into the final corner. Very nice looking livery, I must say. I like the little fractal design. But he has got quite a lot of speed under there. Is it going to be enough? He's 18th, and it is going to be 17th. Just pushes Hernandez to the side, but he will start behind Darren Wicks. And look at that. We have got sunshine, we've got a dry track, and we've got 22 cars ready to throw down.
Oh boy, they are pushing buttons right now, looking for that dry setup and making sure everything's ready to go, and probably counting their blessings. This track it's a wonderful track, very technical. Most of the drivers absolutely love it, but it's challenging, and in the wet even more so.
Yeah, it's one of the circuits where I feel like most corners become, I don't want to say unbearable, but they feel like just completely different corners once the rain starts falling, especially something like Cheetah or even Sunset. That is just impossible.
Yeah, here, corners that aren't a problem in the dry suddenly have your full attention, even in the damp or greasy conditions. So I'm sure the track is fairly green. There's no rubber down, but that won't last long. And some of these liveries, my goodness.
Yep, and the best one we get to look at right up front, Skyler Loverick, another pole position, looking to make it 4 wins in a row here at Kyalami. But 1 hour and a 2-stopper is all that stands between him and victory, and of course 21 other cars. They're not going to make it easy, especially with Michael Landry lining up right behind him in that 710. It's Tim Brook and Andrew Wilson on the second row of the grid. Adair Augusto just squeaking into the top 5 there. You saw how well he did right towards the end, and behind him is going to be the 999 Lambo of Jonathan Clifford, a name we are very familiar with here in the OR, especially in the North American scene. It's Freitas, though, from Brazil, who's going to be lining up 7th on the start grid. Kenneth Portis in the Honda. I'm never going to get tired of saying that, because he is 8th position on this grid. Austin Carpenter is number 9, and Eduardo Sanchez just pips Brian Rasco there on the right side in the All-American McLaren there for a 10th position start. Then Larry Lanham and Joe Bandera in the 69. Pink as can be McLaren. He has been feeling himself in the British manufacturer for quite a long time. And then it is going to be Dan Fernandez 14th. Tyler Doggins with the Canadian of Darren Wicks there in the Tron-inspired Audi livery, going to be 16th. Austin Shirley, we were just watching him because he pushed that BMW on the left there, Jaden Hernandez, out of the way. For position 17 behind them is going to be Craig Puckett, the newest driver here in the North American scene, along with Mitch Suddendorf and Keaton Miley, excuse me. A trio of new faces to the OR and a trio of new faces to North American Sprint. And Edson Martinez doing another last two first maybe challenge. He seems to do this every single week, but hey, I'm more than happy to let it be. And as these drivers pull away, we're going to give a quick shout out, of course, to Simrigs for sponsoring another season of North American Sprint out of Melbourne, Australia. We have talked about these guys so much because, well, it's nice to do a little bit of an ad read, but these guys have got pretty much everything you would ever need when it comes to sim racing equipment. Could be wheels, bases, pedals, shifters, seats. If you can think it, they've probably got it in store. All of Australia, New Zealand, you guys are going to be covered, no questions asked. But if you're like Kevin, myself, or any driver here that isn't a part of the AP region, you guys are going to be sending an email, but I'm sure they'd be more than happy to do some business with you. And if you're an OR Patreon member, you guys are going to be getting 5% off your in-store purchases, so do take advantage of that, because this is not the cheapest hobby by any means. But again, thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring another season of the Sprint Series. These guys are lining up single file, and we are just pulling up to Sunset, a corner that I am very fond of, but I can never really seem to get it right.
Those are my favorite corners, the ones that you're not there yet, you haven't figured it out yet, you talk to everybody you know and nobody's figured it out yet. Those are my favorite ones because there's an opportunity there to get to hit that lap when you need it. But some of these, you mentioned before, a couple of these new drivers tonight, It wasn't that long ago I was in that car on my very first race. I don't know if some of these other folks have raced other places, but it can be absolutely terrifying right now. The thoughts roaring through your head. I actually spun on the pace lap on one of my very first races here at OOR, worried before we even got to the start. So I hope I hope they have all the best races tonight. Mistakes will happen and things will be learned, but I'm really hoping that they enjoy it. But they're lining up double files, so over to you.
Thank you, Kevin. Hey, if you're spinning in your first race, you can only go up from there. I mean, you're at rock bottom, so it's all about perspective. It's that's what life is. You know, it's all about how you look at things. But yeah, we are
sports psychology.
Sports psychology. Make sure your own mind is sound, but make sure you get into your opponent's head so they can make mistakes. But we are double file here. Loverink on pole once again in the Jean Alesi Esports Lamborghini. 4 wins on the line here, and he is not going to make this easy, especially not for Landry, Tim Brook, Andrew Wilson, and Adair Augusto. Even Clifford, I'll throw him in there. But he's got 1 hour, 2 mandatory stops for this checkered flag to find its new home, wherever it may be. But we are on to the front straight. Loverink locked, loaded, and ready to go, as is the rest of the field. Up to the start-finish line, you can see those grid spots disappearing towards the bottom of your screen, past the flagpole, and just under the lights. Ladies and gentlemen, wouldn't you know it, it's green, green, green here at South Africa. Loverink on the throttle immediately. It's Landry also getting a good jump. Brooke, Wilson, and Augusto 3 wide, almost 4 wide in the background as Freitas makes a move on the inside of the Porsche. There is going to be contact, but it seems as though the Porsche of Augusto keeps going relatively well. There is Kenneth Portis in the Honda, and it is a very big bit of snap there from Sanchez. Somehow gets under control, and as I say that, the Porsche gets into the side there of the McLaren. The rest of the field is going to just bolt on through. Austin Carpenter right now getting swamped for positions. He is pretty far back from where he started. There's Rasco down the inside, and I think he just made contact with the other McLaren there. So there is chaos already here at the start.
And they're not done yet. There's still a lot of very, very close racing for 59 minutes left. We're gonna have to sort that out. But out in front, as per usual, almost a second already, as per usual. Sometimes you see a livery with a famous race car driver's name on it, and you go, "That's pretty bold." But when you're dominating a series like this, I think you get to put any name you want on there.
Yeah, Loverink has certainly proven that. It is showing him in second, so I think there's some mix-up on the timing sheet, but hopefully that gets sorted out. We did have Rasco go into the pit lane. Very surprising there. Freitas right now in the uncategorized Silver League. He is running in 10th position. Just ahead of them is Doggins. He's going to make a very late move on the inside there into the final corner. Does he make the move stick? He is going to be slower, but there is contact. Doggins off to the side there, straight into the barrier, and he is going to tumble down the order from, well, almost top 10 to well outside of it. Kenneth Portis giving us a front row seat as Brook outbrakes himself into turn 2, because technically it is turn 2. And this is still going on. Portis, he is pushing.
Yeah. They're all really pushing for spots here. It's been a very sordid first lap in a bit. And historically in this race, they've been quite calm early on, and I've been sort of proud of that, of the North American group. But tonight, it's teeth bared and claws out, I guess.
It absolutely is. Darren Wicks getting a little bit tied up there with the 69 of Bandera. I think they were just swapping positions a moment ago, but they are going to be keeping each other company for right now. Landry's off. Wilson's off. What has gone on there?
I hadn't noticed. Perhaps the track is green still. Maybe there's a little less grip out there. Maybe they're having a little more trouble getting the tires warmed up. I'm looking for their excuses, and yeah.
Just a little late on the brakes there for Wilson, because it was the smallest tap, but that was all it took.
It's this early on, the cars, like I said, they're inherently unstable. They're not up to speed. They're not up to temps. And this track will push you right to the edge on every corner. We're seeing it, a little bit of washout. You think you've got the pass done, there's a little bit of front end washout on exit, and suddenly somebody's in the wall. There's no intent, clearly, but there's been a number of cases where they've sort of expected a bit much from the car, I think is a nice way to put that.
Yeah, it's those little factors that really separate what would be an ideal moment from, well, less than ideal. But that's racing, that's how it goes. There's not really much you can do. Just get your head up and spin around, as that was, I believe, Craig Pocket, one of the new drivers. He's mixed up with, I didn't quite, was that Miley? I don't think it was.
Oof.
So this is in
the replays.
Oh, okay. So that explains.
Just to rotate. Oh, yep. Just a rotate, and then another rotate, and a little bit of follow me, follow you, and away they went. I'm not quite sure about that second rejoin, but I don't think anybody had to pay the price for that.
Yeah, that was actually Suddendorf, the other McLaren involved, so apologies on that. But I think Pocket just got on the throttle a little bit too much, a little too early, and there was nothing that could have happened.
And then the second one just looked like a sympathy spin to me. We've all done it. You're off the track, and now I am too. Oh no.
Darren Wicks still under attack. Bandera has not given him a chance to breathe.
That is two very interesting liveries too. They're very different and yet both extremely striking. But what a race! And they're managing to race each other and close the gap to the race in front of them. This could going to be a 4-car race very, very quickly.
Yeah, normally when you have drivers who are fighting each other, they end up losing time. But I guess these guys are more in tune than we can actually believe. So if they can keep that up, that's going to be great for them. As Lanham finds himself in a bit of a tricky situation because he does run it a bit wide into turn turn 2, excuse me. Freitas.
Looked like we had another spin or part spin in the background there, but with this story, yes, the two in front are fighting, but the two in the back, if you watch, they are working as a team. Here's that fight.
This is good. This is good for the two behind because, like you said, Kevin, they can catch up. So that's probably why, as we have double side by side, and Freitas with the touch there on Lanham, that's going to put him in the gravel. But thankfully, nothing more than that. As he rejoins the circuit, we did have a yellow there. That's the 458 of Austin Shirley, whose sun is setting right here. So we'll see what happens. This is, ooh, twitch there.
Oh, so much wiggles.
Oh, Sanchez.
Are we through? Are we through?
Wow.
Oh, sorry to laugh, but that technically was a save.
Oh my God. Augusto and Sanchez just... Sanchez probably... Or not Sanchez. Augusto probably had a little bit more to deal with because he was off-roading at that point. That's the last thing you want to do.
The replay reel in this race is going to be 3/4 as long as the race. They're making it exciting. Except, of course, up at the front, 3+ seconds for our leader. The Lamborghinis at the front, frankly, are running away with it, first and second. The fight's basically, the first fight on track is for third, which is not bad.
Yeah. Tim Brook, actually, it looks like it's more fourth because it's Tim Brook and Kenneth Portis. So the BMW leading the Honda, leading the McLaren there. Carpenter not really close enough, but just sitting back in the wings and waiting for his chance to shine, possibly, depending on if these two can close their gaps up and start fighting a little bit.
It's I'm still watching the cars and just looking for this sliding and this back and forth. It looks to me like they're really having trouble making these cars stick tonight.
Yeah, it might be slightly different setups, maybe missing a aero percentage or angle point here or there, maybe. The track is perfect. There's no wind, just 1 kilometer. It's 19 ambient, 26 on the surface. So it's a challenge across the board. As up ahead, side by side, Lanham dueling it with Carpenter and coming out on top. Maybe, I think there's a bit of a brake tap there. So, it's Bandera actually, and Bandera's going to retake this position down mineshaft. That's a little bit close.
One of those make the move, and then as you celebrate, you brake too late and give it all back. I hate those moments, but we've all done it. But this is nose to tail racing. This is 5 minutes left racing, not 51 minutes left racing.
You're 100% right, and smart there from the Ferrari to get out of the way, or sorry, get back into line, if you will, as, well, you're going through Cheetah. You can't really do it side by side. Bandera with Doggins there. He's just come out of the pits. Now, the pit window is open. It opens 5 minutes after the race commences. And, oh, there goes Doggins. Getting out of the way. Very smart. But you'll be seeing those numbers on the left side just go down the little orange boxes with the 1 or 2. That's just how many mandatory stops these guys will have left.
It'll be interesting. I haven't talked to any of the drivers this week, but and I don't remember offhand what tire wear is like at Kyalami. There's a lot of high-speed corners. I can imagine you tear them off pretty quick.
Probably, as I think it was Doggins just stopped on the road there, and he is retiring his car, so something must have gone on down there. But this fight, this is a three-way battle for 11th. It's Hernandez, Augusto, and Sanchez. These three guys are getting a little bit too close. We could be seeing some moves. And the thing is, Hernandez's last lap was slower. I don't know if that was due to dodging traffic or what the case may be. But late on the brakes, Augusto gives the BMW a tap on the rear, and he's also off. And Sanchez says, "Thank you very much, gentlemen. I will take 11th because you clearly were not using it."
Oh, yes. 2 for free. That's Christmas for a sim racer. And not being involved in the accident is Boxing Day, so...
You crazy Canadians and your boxes.
Any excuse for a sale. They're not done yet.
No. Oh, Landry takes a slightly different line, cuts across the inside, and I think he doesn't have enough speed out of the corner, across the line, just about side by side into turn number 1, even though it's more of a kink in the road. But hey, I didn't design the track, someone else is, and it is going to be Landry who just ducks out of that one, and actually ducks out a lot because Darren Wicks picks up a position. So in one corner, Landry just is 1 step forward but 3 steps back to even it all out.
It is so easy to do that on that corner. You can either overcommit and brake too much, or you can brake too late, or you can just panic partway in. But it is so simple because it is at its heart a very, very high-speed corner. But if you get it wrong, you can lose a lot of time, especially because you're not going to get it back going up the hill.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all about just carrying that momentum and hoping the other guy didn't do as well as you. We're going to join here Sundorf and Martinez. Sundorf's first time on camera, or I would say second, is going to be a battle right now with the Porsche. Martinez, a seasoned driver here in the Octane Online Racing scene. As we go down Sunset, slightly different lines from both the AM class drivers. This would be a fight for the amateur class podium, because you can see Bandera there in 9th, Fernandez up the road in 13th, and Sundorf is, well, just ahead of us in that yellow McLaren, and he is holding on for dear life, but he's still got 48 minutes if he wants that spot.
This is ideal for new racers. Get somebody out there that's at your pace, somebody else that's out there trying to drive safe, trying to be smart, trying to get through their first or second race. That is you couldn't ask for a better position to be in. If the two of them just sort of spar for the rest of the race, that's check marks in everybody's book.
Yep, but it's only going to be something we'll find out once the checkered flag falls. We'll join the number 8, who is currently, and very fittingly, in position number 8, just up ahead in the front of your shot there. That's Landry. Here's Lanham. Behind him is Bandera. And Darren Wicks just sitting off in the wings, waiting to see if maybe he can get some scraps. And just behind him is going to be Sanchez, who we just saw not too long ago take 2 positions with very minimal effort. So maybe more such great fortunes will come his way.
Lanham has been in a fight all night. There's always been somebody right behind him or right in front of him, and that's a happy place for a driver. I'm sure they're sweating right now, but I bet they're also grinning. Oh. Maybe not right now. They're about to get run over. There's
a lot of sweat because there was a bit of a late move there from Lanham. He's going to push Bandera high and wide to try and cover off the exit, which he does. There's a great run there out of the chicane from Bandera, but just nothing that he can work with because the Ferrari's in his ways. But down mineshaft we go, a little bit of a slipstream. Braking at about the same time. Does the number 8 outbrake himself a little bit? He does. And now up to Cheetah. She's been sitting there, and she's been waiting, and she does have her first meal. I think... I don't know who that was. That's the number 9.
I was starting to sweat.
That's
I
Miley.
was starting to sweat. I thought I might not be right, but yeah, one meal has been had by a Cheetah tonight.
Yep, and unfortunately, that's going to spell the end for Miley. That is a race retirement, so the Cheetah does not have to suffer any longer. We know there's a bit of scarcity on the Cheetah's play here at Kyalami, especially when these guys are around. But, you know, help the wildlife out, but a very unfortunate end, though, for Miley's race.
Yeah, I get it. I have done the same thing. Sometimes it's the safest thing to do for everybody involved is to just either return to pits and sit there for a minute and maybe go out in some empty track and, you know, put some laps in. Or I have made the decision in the past that just, no, I'm too flustered right now. I don't have time to recover, and I'm just going to wreck this for myself and everybody else. And then your little part of your brain goes, and they'll hate you. But you know, so sometimes, as much as I'm sure some people will argue this point with me, I would suggest sometimes it's okay to say, that's it for tonight. I'm done.
I would agree, but only in very extreme circumstances. I'm like, you know what? I made it this far. I'm too committed. I put way too much time in. I'm gonna just get this thing over and done with. I don't care if it's dead last. I just want to see the checkered flag.
Yep. Oh yeah. Like I said, it is in extremis only, but there is. I understand it at the very least.
It is.
But Lanham again. My goodness, he just can't. He's got a magnetic car, I think is how we'd like to put this. It's always got somebody stuck to one of the bumpers.
Yeah, I mean, opposites is tracked, and I think black is a pretty opposite color of pink. I don't know about you.
With the especially with the blue lightnings on there, and then Tron following them up. This has been threatening to be a four car race since we started, and now it's threatening to be even more than that because they're catching. I think it may be a back marker ahead, but slipping and sliding everywhere.
Yeah, Montera. I mean, this is. Almost, it feels like, if you look at the classification, it feels like a fish out of water because he's in 9th position. The closest amateur is Fernandez, and if we look at the track map here, the number 26 is just getting around through turn 3 right now. And Bandera is at sunset as Sanchez goes off and safely rejoins. But Landry, he has not had a moment really to think because it's been Bandera all over him. He's probably questioning if maybe Bandera should be in a slightly higher class just because of how well he's doing.
I was gonna say we might be three races into the series, but this is how you get promoted to Pro-Am in a hurry. You're running right in amongst the not just the other Pro-Ams, but 2 Pro-Ams that have been here for a couple of seasons and are bona fide race car drivers. And to be up there and playing with them, you might be getting that red letter or that red number plate changed to a black one pretty quick.
I was gonna say, if you get a red letter, that might be a bad thing. I don't know. Last time I heard a red letter day, I was playing Half-Life 2, and the Combine were doing its thing. But that's besides the point. Carpenter goes into the pits, and we just saw Bandera dip in. That pit entry line comes up on you quick, so it's good to just take it easy.
It does, and yes, stop-go 30 is a race breaker, but also I completely understand taking that. You're in the middle of this fight, take that moment, come out on the fresh tires, put in a couple of really stable laps while these guys are out here dragging each other, and hopefully they'll come out behind you.
Yeah, I think that's the call there from Bandera is just go in, get the undercut, see where these guys end up, because maybe you can use the potential fight from all of them to slowly but surely gain that time back. I know Larry Lanham is going to be very happy about that because finally he has a bit of breathing room.
Yes, but we're also getting close to the 20-20-20 break point. We're only 2 minutes away, so I suspect we'll see a lot of them heading within the next lap or two. But that one lap, even if it is only one lap, even if all that you do is force them to respond and get off of a plan that they might have had for doing something else, that's still a win.
It is. And it's moments like these where we may see some possible changes in strategy depending on how the drivers view everything. Some of them may, like you said, Kevin, may do a 20-20, just, split everything up nice and even. Some may have pitted early. We did see that with a few drivers. Others may pit later. A good chunk of the field still hasn't pitted. As we get to just about halfway, Darren Wicks looks on the inside of Larry Lanham. We talked about him having a bit of a break, but I guess not, because Darren Wicks has decided otherwise. He does not want to give this poor Ferrari the chance, and as I say that, of course, he goes in. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Well, Sanchez, it's your turn to take on the Ferrari. Man, that back end just does not want to stay down.
No, they've been drifting on a regular basis. The tires to come off of that car are going to be spent.
I've heard of checking your treads by using a penny or, a coin of some sort, but you might lose the penny at that point if you're Sanchez's back tires, because he has been cooking those things all night so far.
You could use a magnet to check him because the cords are going to be sticking out.
And he's off the grass on there. It's a little bit, and that's going to slow him down. So Lanham, just about 8/10, so maybe another chance to relax, hopefully, and I'm not even going to try to knock on wood because that never seems to work anymore.
This could also be your car telling you it's time to pit.
No, that's a fair point.
You don't seem to be getting past Lanham. You're burning the tires off. Take the stop now. Again, now you're in a position to force Lanham to go another lap, to stay ahead. So the psychological little slide there, but the psychological game right around pit stops is great fun, which is why I'm always glad to see two.
Yeah, and you think the other drivers who were involved in this fight, they went in early, so these guys are going to be thinking about when's the best time to come in. Sanchez maybe hounding him a little bit, and as I say that, it's late on the brakes contact. Sanchez holds on to the McLaren despite the back end stepping out. That front end's looking very solid, and that is going to be his cue to dive into the pit lane. So Larry Lanham out of the squad does stay out, so we'll see where he comes out in all of this. Clifford's in the pit, Wilson and Brooke as well. Suddendorf is just coming out of the pit lane now, so he'll have one more pit stop to do. There's the Porsche of Martinez. I think he's going to gain this spot. Yes, he does. And into turn number 2, it is done. Outbrakes himself a little bit, but at the very least, hey, your 18's become a 17.
That livery on that Porsche is reminiscent of a classic Porsche livery that had a certain cigarette manufacturer on the side of it. But the deep dish white wheels absolutely takes me back.
Well, a lot of these liveries are inspired by real life liveries. I think if we take a gander at Landry, no, not Landry. It was I think it was Wilson. I mean, McLaren and Golf, like, come on. It hits so well, and it's one of those that I never get tired of seeing.
And I love the variety of liveries in this series as well. People are going with these sort of recreation liveries. You're seeing a lot of them in the livery chat in the Discord, and then other people going for the art liveries that are, you'd never get away with it in the real world because there's not enough advertising on it. And then you get Perfect Cut. This John Alesi racing livery is classic. Simple lines, tells you what it's all about. And in this case, it's a toot your own horn livery, which I always appreciate.
Yeah, we've had drivers in the past. I believe a couple seasons ago, we had a driver in EU who just absolutely dominated the scene. Just no chance. Pretty much is doing what Lovering did, or did what Lovering is doing. Excuse me. Won every race except for 2. I think didn't win one race at Bathurst because they didn't show up, and I think the other race was just kind of like, whatever. But that person was also part of John Alesi Esports, so that is one of the best sim racing teams in the world. So when you are able to add yourself to that roster, that is no small feat.
That's a statement, and they're not the only person in just this race who races at the elite esport levels in other streams and in other leagues and in other places. There's an incredible pool of talent. There's no surprise the top 5 or 6 here can compete in most places.
Yeah, and I should probably mention how difficult it is to get onto a team, just any team in esports at a professional level. I mean, you know, I look at teams for, say, things like League of Legends or Counter-Strike, Rocket League. You know, those aren't easy to get to. Anybody can make a team, but it really takes a whole different person to actually take that to such a height. So to all those drivers out there who are a part of such incredible organizations, you have deserved a very, very great job. Well done, because you got something a lot of us don't.
To underline that, I know our second place driver has pitted and our first place driver hasn't, but currently legitimately on pace. Our leader is 24 seconds ahead of second place, and I just see them coming out of the pits now, but as of the last lap, 24-second lead.
And that's before the first pit stop. You will see times grow because of pit stops, but if you're doing all of this and you haven't gotten in yet, and neither has the guy behind you, that does show you just how much of a problem you are. And Love Rank is coming out ahead of everybody else, so he doesn't even lose a position.
Oh, and still, now that both of our top 2 have pitted, there is, if the timing tower can be trusted at the moment, 13.5 seconds between them. And Clifford is no slouch. Clifford is another one of those drivers that you see all over the internet.
Yeah, he does obviously stream these races. I have watched them back. He is one of those guys that you don't scoff at, someone you're always going to have either on your rear bumper or in the back of your mind, because you know he's catching up to you every single lap. So he is not a pushover by any means.
And he's raced in various places. I know he's done some live racing as well, sitting in a room with, you know, a dozen other sim racers, having people watch you do it and still being competitive and not just driving off into the trees and out of distraction. That's impressive. But it looks like, whoa, we've got a drive-through, unfortunately.
Larry Lana, we were just talking about him having to, you know, finally get a break of some sort, but with that's going to shake things up, because he is still one pit stop away from being cleared, and if he goes into the pits, it's not going to count, because the drive-through states that you have to, well, drive through the pit lane. And I actually want to take a hot second, because right now Sanchez and Augusto and Bandera for position number 10. The 69 amateur class goes on the inside because Augusto gets a little bit of a flick there, has to recover, which he does. Down the hill we plunge. Ahead, though, Sanchez has to pick his break point and his line, and he will do just that. You see Darren Wicks ahead, running wide is the number 21. Into Cheetah. He's gonna lose it off in the gravel. Gets it tied down. Bandera goes through. Now Augusto could have a chance at this. And just behind them, I believe, is Pocket, but he's not in this fight at all. Augusto out of the slipstream. Almost side by side, but that McLaren's just going to do a little bit better. Back into the slipstream again. He's going to try to pick his moment. He's going to dip one way, dodge the other, because the inside line is taken over by the number 21. Bandera has not gained any time whatsoever to Darren Wicks up ahead. Into another braking zone. It's going to be Augusto with a very different line, and that you'd think would maybe help him, but it's on the exact opposite.
We saw a very rare thing there. Somebody hit Cheetah and didn't go around. I refer to that as Cheetah only got one claw in, but very, very lucky moment there.
Yeah, and especially in the McLaren of all cars. I mean,
yes, yeah.
I don't know about you, Kevin, but I know what can happen to the McLaren if you even just breathe incorrectly.
Cheetah will send you into low Earth orbit in the McLaren. There's no question. But apparently, through luck, skill, or a combination of both, that time it didn't.
Well, if Cheetah is sending you into low Earth orbit, then that can only mean Elon Musk has designed that curve, because it just
if he designed
sense.
it would work.
You're right. But yeah, very lucky there from Sanchez to not get wrapped up in that. And Darren Wicks, is slowly being pulled into this picture, whether he likes it or not. Sanchez again!
Oh.
Over Cheetah.
A series of linked recoveries sometimes is what you refer to a drive as, and yeah, this has been just one save after another.
I mean, I understand showing off, but I don't think that's how you want to do it.
Hopefully you're having a stern word with yourself at this point, going, okay, twice lucky, that's all I get.
Oh, I mean, you gotta think if Cheetah has a dexterity check, how high do you have to roll? Because whatever it is, Bandera is rolling very, very well. Maybe a little close, but he is doing well. And we have some very interesting news, because all of these drivers, at the very least, their gaps are about half a second. And they were, I think we had half a second to a couple, but then there was a pretty sizable gap, maybe 8, 9 tenths, but that's come down. So this is starting to heat up a little bit.
Slightly different 4-car group here, but there's been dense racing all night. Again, this is yet another reason why so many of the drivers love Kyalami. It's a great track to race in. These cars perform well here. There is room to do these outrageous moves and get away with them, and sometimes not, as the case may be. But it's just a lot of fun to race here. So I'm sure they're enjoying themselves, and the nose-to-tail racing is fun anyway.
Yeah, it really is. This is definitely one of my favorite circuits. Not quite top 3, maybe top 5, maybe top 10 at the worst. But these guys are certainly enjoying themselves. Now, Bandera is in a very tricky spot. You never want to be glued to someone's bumper going through Cheetah, because you can never see it, and there's really no room for error. Slightly different lines. A big bit of oversteer there. Has to correct it, and you can barely see it in the little monitor built in as a rear view mirror. Sanchez taking full advantage of that. Bandera is pushing way over to the left side, right into the pit lane, the pit exit. Same with Sanchez, doesn't want to give it up. It's going to be 3 wide into turn number 2, and Bandera goes sailing off into the distance. Sanchez spins, but recovers nicely. The 2 McLarens dropping spots. Augusto goes through to P10, and Darren Wicks gets away with P9 yet again.
Wow, the saves per minute in this race. I don't know if that's a stat, but it should be. These guys...
After tonight, it's going to be a stat.
Yeah, there's been some questionable decision-making, but the saves and the recoveries have been absolutely stellar.
It has been, and that just goes to show you the skill of these drivers. And this isn't something you practice. You don't sit down and go, okay, guys, I'm gonna practice my saves. This is all just reaction. This is not thinking about it. This is just looking at what's happening, seeing what the car is doing, realizing it's not supposed to do that, and just reacting accordingly.
And knowing who you're racing with, and who's behind you, and who's in front of you, and what what you can expect them to do, because a lot of these folks have been racing with each other for a while now, so they know if somebody's coming up behind them and acting real aggressive, maybe if I let them go, they'll crash. Sometimes is an acceptable decision, right? Rather than being part of that incident, you let them go and have it somewhere else. So not suggesting in this case that they do that. This is a great 4-car race. These guys have been showing, for the most part, a lot of respect. And what contact there has been, none of it's been malicious.
Exactly. It's been maybe some close calls here and there, but nothing that is, like you said, malicious. Augusto, here we go, in the slipstream, looking to the inside. Does he get the move done into turn number 2? He does lay his claim there. Bandera also trying to take advantage, but he can't make it stick. Darren Wicks all over the curbs there. Lucky to come out of that one in one piece, but unfortunately, he is going to have to go side by side. Bandera and Sanchez pushing so hard. He's off the circuit again. He is trying to make up for lost time, but here we go. It's sunset. The sun may be covered by the clouds, but the race is still heating up quite nicely. Now it's to the inside. The Audi of Wicks is pinned there on the apex, but Bandera says that's no problem. I'm going around the outside. Thank you for position 10. Here's the bumper, and I'm getting out of here.
I just noticed it said rain in 30. It just disappeared a couple seconds ago. So that means in less than half an hour, and we've got less than half an hour left, we might get a sprinkle right at the end of this.
But if we get any precipitation, I don't think it's really going to do that much, because going from optimum to, say, damp or even wet, I mean, that takes some time. Sure, it might go to green or even greasy, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. And I think when I saw it on the 30, I think it was like 28 minutes. I think it had just popped up. I could be wrong 100%, but that's at least what I saw as Pantera gets a little bit adventurous there. And there's Sanchez. He's saying, all right, you know what? I got to get a new set of tires on this thing because I don't think I'm going to be able to stick it out any longer if I really want to gamble, and I don't.
Yeah, the ones that were on there are just straight in the bin. There's nothing left on either set that they've been on so far. Although I think, does that make them the first to blink twice?
I think so. It sounds like it.
That's 6 minutes before the even split, so that might be a case of burned them all off and forced to come in early, and that means they're going to have to drive a little nicer for the next 25 if they expect to get to the end on that next set.
Yeah, it's just hold station. Try to make sure you don't, like you said, burn the tires. But then it's, maybe the last 10, 15 or so minutes, that's when you start pushing. That's when you say, all right, you know what, I think I've got enough life in these tires to make it to the end if I really get a bit amped with it. And, well, that's something we'll just have to wait and see. But what we're looking at right now, this is the battle for second. This has been brewing for quite a while as we've been paying attention to other drivers. Jonathan Clifford starting to come under siege by Andrew Wilson. We'll look at the times. Last lap was exactly a tenth between them, and now it is going to be 3/10 towards Wilson, a 140.89. For Clifford, it's a 41.10, so he is not as pace-heavy as he might have thought as he goes a bit deep there into the corner, although Wilson didn't judge it quite correctly either because he goes a bit too shallow into the corner, and that is going to basically negate each other out. So no time gained or lost.
Well, relative to each other, but in the process, they're both losing time to Lovering.
Well,
that's
are you catching Lovering,
11
though?
seconds. That's fair. But they're certainly not giving them each other a chance to do so by fighting like this.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like at this point, I mean, we talked about the first pit stop, 24 seconds before the first pit stop even happens. Like, at that point, I mean, I hadn't been keeping an eye on the gap at all up there because I was like, all right, Lovering's already a second away, or a second up the field, and we're already like a lap or two in. Like, no one's going to catch him. I think these guys have just realized, you know what, I'm better off not trying to catch Lovering and just dealing with the guy who's either in front of me or behind me, depending on who you are in the situation.
Absolutely. Realizing that you're racing for second today is a reasonable thing. Not to say, they couldn't catch them, but you're right. This fight is more important to them right now than catching Lovering.
Yep, because, well, this is not just a spot, but this, I believe, if the standings are updated properly, this would be, I think, a fight for position overall. Of course, we're still very early in the season, so it's kind of pointless to talk about the end of season standings when we're not even halfway through. We still have, I believe, 4 more races left this season. So I'll get an update on the score count next week. But this is great stuff from these guys. Even they're playing a more slow burn game.
Absolutely, this is where you're seeing the experience. But there is a fairly significant difference between second and third in the points. So perhaps they have decided that with 23 minutes to go, now might not be the time, especially with one pit stop to go.
Well, I guess I think last time Glenn said he was going to do it. So, yeah, we'll obviously give you the most up-to-date stats next week. We'll let you know points and all that, and we'll see who is in a comfortable position and who's maybe going to be looking over their shoulder as we head to Monza next week, which is going to be interesting because that is going to be one of our longer events. It's a 70-minute race with not 1, but 3 mandatory stops. So it'll be interesting to see how that gets divvied up.
Yeah, there's all kinds of options there. We might see people doing a cluster of 2 pit stops together just to almost get them out of the way so you don't break up your rhythm. We could see all kinds of things there. I'm looking forward to it. Plus Monza, I mean, it's you say what you want about it, but watching Ascari is always fun. Let's just put it that way.
It is, yeah. The Ascari chicane, yeah. It's always a blast to see, especially because you feel like you can really push it, but then you have those little sausage curves on the inside, and then before you know it, your front end's pointing up, and well, by the time you come back down, you're pretty much about 3 feet from the wall.
But I mean, the fastest way through Ascari is to fly the first bit, and if you, yeah, as you said, if you get that wrong, you've got a lot of time to think about it before you end up in the gravel.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess it depends how fast you go. You may have a lot of time, or you may not have a lot of time. But that'll be demons for these drivers to face next week. But we're going to join Darren Wicks here, because just up ahead is his old buddy, Eduardo Sanchez, and just behind him is his buddy, Dan Fernandez. So, are we seeing the slow to return fight? Or do we think someone like Sanchez can just hold this gap?
Well, what I think has happened is that Sanchez has jumped Wicks in the pit stop, because they've both done their second stop, and Sanchez was definitely the chaser before, and they're now 2 seconds out in front of Wicks, so there might have been an exceptional pit stop in there somewhere to go along with the very exciting driving. Speaking of very exciting driving,
I believe that's Martinez who was off. Just getting on the way, he's blue flagged for this fight for P3. Kenneth Portis, Michael Landry. I mean, two very experienced members here of North American Sprint, and they are dueling for this spot. Top 9 still have one pit stop to clear, so we'll see who comes out where and when and how. But Portis just up ahead. He decides he's going in, so Landry, if he is going to go in on this lap, has to put in an exceptional time, because he is going to try to take advantage of Portis's pit stop and maybe say, okay, you went in, that's great, that's your mistake, and that's going to be the reason you end up losing this position. But, of course, we can't call anything yet.
Every time I see a pit stop, I hear the voice of Michael Schumacher from years and years and years ago saying it isn't a pit stop. It's an in-lap, a pit stop, and an out-lap. That's all one thing. And he's absolutely right. You can make up 2 seconds in the pit stop, but if you lose 3 on the out-lap, you didn't gain an advantage. So getting into the pit well, only doing what you need to do, getting the car stopped on the marks, all of that stuff counts. Not getting a drive-through or stop go 30 for speeding into pit lane, also very important. But there is a whole process. There's much more than just that line-to-line into a pit stop.
Yeah, it is. It's a game that a lot of these drivers, I think, do enjoy playing, even if it's a bit tricky at times, because of the fact that you really got to make sure those in and out laps are perfect. But for a lot of these guys, top 10, I would say this is something they're used to, and it does show because they're able to stay out there for quite a while. Now, Clifford comes in, Wilson stays out. Do we see another instance of this undercut attempt?
Clifford pitted first out of the top 3 last time as well, and I think it gained them a bit. We'll have to, of course, wait till it's all over and done with the C, but I can certainly see their plan. They were going for the undercut twice, so we'll see how that works for them.
Yep, Landry comes in, so we have to look at Portis right now, because he is, or was it Portis? Was it Portis? No.
He's one of this group that has stopped, so...
Oh, no, I'm thinking of... No, it was Landry behind Portis. Anyways, yeah, because we were following Landry. I think it was the battle for 6th, if I remember correctly, before the pit stop. But with where Portis is at right now, he's coming up to Cheetah momentarily. Landry is still sitting in the pit lane. I think he's getting dropped soon.
That's a suspiciously long stop. There we go, finally dropped. But I'm interested to see how long Loverink pushes this. They're already 2.5 minutes past that 20-20-20 split, so it's not unlikely that they'll go, much closer to the end and then just finish on those hyper fresh tires.
Yeah, but we see Portis comes out behind Landry, so that pit stop ended up working for the 710. quite well,
Yep.
although the gap maybe isn't what he would have liked. Bandera picks up a stop go 30. Wilson's in the pit lane. Suddendorf's in the pit lane. I was wondering when he was going to come in because I still saw that number 1 next to his name. Loverink, Brook, Freikas, and Augusto still have to pit, so we'll be seeing if they come in soon enough. There's Suddendorf off the jacks, and he is moving. But a stop go 30 at this stage of the game for Bandera, I mean, that's a top 10 that's going to be gone.
Yeah, because they're too far away. They've only got 3 laps, so they're not going to be able to ride out to the end of the race and take the full length penalty. So they're going to have to come in again and stop.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I wonder. I mean, if he was speeding in the pit lane, then that's the penalty. But I didn't see. I always thought those applied a bit sooner, unless he just came in. But that'll be something for him to deal with in due time. Right now, your 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place drivers have come into the pit lane. Wilson clears his stop, and he will be coming out in position 2. Clifford actually might take this. He does have more speed, but I think he's going to be just a day late and $1 short, because going into turn 2, the Golf McLaren's still there, but the tires are not in the same window. Clifford may be looking to go for the kill here. Slightly different lines, tries to get a straighter exit, and he does. The speed there's a lot better. We're going to be going side by side as sunset is just over the horizon here on the inside. It is the McLaren of Wilson. It is going to be 2 by 2 they go down the hill. The inside line now belongs to Clifford from inside to outside. Does he make the move stick? The barrier there, I think, hit a little bit of contact, and Clifford sits back behind. He's going to have to wait for another opportunity.
That was spectacular racing and great trust between these two. You absolutely saw Clifford's intent was, I need to do this before he gets his tires up to temperature. And that was that's as hard as you can push without having a wreck.
Yeah, it's incredible defense there from Wilson. And like you said, he's trying to get those tires up to temp. And, maybe overdriving right now on cold tires is not the way to go. But hey, a little bit of extra heat might be what he needs. And as I say that, he completely misses the apex. You can see the skid marks coming off the back of the car. That is not what you want to be doing. Now through Cheetah. Oh, very. I think Clifford was maybe a little bit sheepish to last time. Different line. It is the over-under once again. This has been Clifford's weapon of choice as we head down the start-finish straight again. Cross the line under the banner. In the slipstream, the 999 sits. He's going to have to pick his moment. He's going to stick in the middle. Is he later on the brakes? Slightly, ever so slightly later on the brakes into turn number 2. Side by side with Wilson. Again, these two continue to clash. And it is still the 91 that comes out on top. But Clifford, I think, just spooked Wilson off his line.
There it is.
There it is. Yep. Clifford plays the mind game.
Oh, the very, very start of that, coming through the kink. Clifford, the racecraft was genius. Stayed to the right, forced the car in front to make their only move that they're allowed to the right, and that left him open to come back to the left and go underneath. And from there, they just fought for almost a lap before they finally got themselves where they needed to be. And as you said, that little mistake up in front, that missed apex was all it was, and now it's time to drive away with everything you've got.
That's actually a good point. I completely forgot about the one move rule. So thank you, Kevin, for being my encyclopedia. I appreciate that. But with Clifford, his tires are already in a good spot. Wilson, I think, might be about half a lap off. If not, then he's probably just about getting ready to have everything be where it needs to be. But it could be too little too late. As he is stuck behind. We have a yellow out for the 77 of Martinez. Do we think it is what it is? We'll ride on board here. If I can get it right. There it is.
Oh, yes. There we go. Yep. The inevitable.
Caught that
and, that was another lucky one. That was just into the gravel. No wall contact, just the gravel.
Yeah, you saw the steering cranked entirely to the left, and foot on the brake, the smartest thing you can do in that situation. Doesn't lose any position simply because of the distance between him and, Pocket there in last place. But that is another victim for Cheetah to feast upon. And besides that, we have very much just calmed down. Clifford's already gained a second over Wilson.
Yeah, that gap's opening up. 16 plus seconds up to Loverink. I'm interested to see. I don't think they're going to catch him with 12 minutes left, but I'm interested to see if Clifford can close that gap and at least make a point that I could have. Given the right situation, I could have.
Yep.
I see we've got an unfortunate DSQ at the back of the field, disqualification for car 69.
That is Joe Bandera.
Amateur class car. All kinds of things could have been happening there.
Yeah, and that was due to the stop-go 30 simply because he didn't clear it in time. There's a certain amount of laps you have to, or a certain amount of laps that you're allowed to run before you have to go into the pit lane to clear your stop-go 30. Bandera didn't do that, and the man who was looking at a top 10 finish has now settled for 19th with just a little bit over 11 minutes to go. It's an unfortunate end to the race for him, but that's just how it's going to be. Suddendorf here getting blue flagged for Loverink, who has 16 seconds over second place. So we'll see if he can reach. Do you think he can reach 24 seconds by the time we reach the checkered flag?
Well, I've mentioned this before, but somebody much wiser than me once said the goal is to win the race by the lowest possible margin. In other words, when you're 16 seconds ahead, stop pushing. But race car drivers being race car drivers, I don't think they will. So 24, I don't know. I'm really interested to see if Clifford can actually either maintain or even close this gap a little bit. Like I said, just to make that point. At this point in the race, I was quicker than you.
Yep, I think. I mean, but is Loverik really pushing? I think it might just be his standard go-to.
It's
it's just how he does it.
The machine is in motion. Yeah, the robot is driving, and you just get out of the way. It's a spectacular skill to just do something so consistently at that level. I mean, it's one thing to drive at that level, but to drive at that level week after week after week after week is it's a special skill.
Yep, anybody can hop into a hot lap session and set some blazing pace. Maybe a fastest lap of our race currently, which is a 1 minute 40.27 from Loverink. You might pull that off in a hot lap session, but that doesn't mean anything if you can't consistently run it. I mean, Loverink has been in the low to mid 140s. He just did a 140.6 last lap. So, absolute speed is nothing when you can't utilize it properly.
Absolutely. In golf, they say the woods are full of long drivers, and in car racing, the fences are full of fast guys. It's anybody can go fast, but slowing down is an underrated part of racing.
Yep, it is. Sometimes it is better to slow down a little bit, especially in certain circuits with certain cars, which may eat tires a bit more. I know the Lexus has a bit of an issue when it comes to tire wear on some tracks, but it sometimes is better to just say, you know what, I may end up losing time, but if I'm not pushing as much, the guy ahead of me, if he gets ahead of me, is going to lose time at the end. And if you can gain time at the end to gain that position, it's worth it. It's worth it if you're losing time now to gain later.
Yeah, playing the long game is something that's very, very challenging to do from in the seat during the race, but it's what will win you the race, knowing when to push, when not to push. Now, you've already, especially in Loverink's case, they've also already got the purple lap, so there's no need for that. They've already got that non-existent point, or the feather in the cap, or whatever you want to call it.
You get 3 points for fastest lap, yeah.
Is there?
Yeah, I think, unless they changed it, but last I checked, I mean, you got 5 points for pole position, 4 for second, 3 for third, 2 for fourth, 1 for fifth, and then you get 3 points for fastest lap. But again, unless they've changed it in the off season, he's getting something. He's getting a little something extra.
That says something about my racing history here. I knew nothing of any of those things, and certainly never benefited from them.
Well, we had the 2 races, like the super sprints when you raced. So I think you had a moment where maybe you got in like the top 5.
The
second race, that is, not the first race.
The most terrifying moment of my career was starting on pole in the rain in the reverse grid race. Yeah, I just got out of the way. That's
that was
what's your plan? Don't get run over. That's the plan.
That was the smartest thing you did. That was you could have had like a bit of an ego, but like, you know what? No, I'm gonna fight it.
Nope.
But then the little angel on your shoulder was just like, "Are you sure you want to do that? Like, are you really sure?"
In that field that season, I was a 12th to 15th place driver, and that was my goal. So
Yep.
to get to 12th from first is a challenge.
Yeah.
To do it without getting run over.
You know, I know the whole saying of, oh, you know, if you're confident in the way you walk and talk, you can get in pretty much anywhere. But I mean, just because you're sitting on pole position in a reverse grid race because you finished 12th, I mean, that's a little tricky to Sanchez. Oh goodness, it's a big hit there, and that is gonna gift Darren Wicks 11th. So we're gonna ride on board. This is through turn 4.
I hate to say it, but this was inevitable. That car was dancing all night, and one of these times they had to not be able to save it. It's unfortunate, but you could see that one coming for a while.
Yep, there's the front end damage. He just got, it looked like he got a little bit too much on the inside for turn 4, and then just, it bounced him out wide, and then he was on the grass for just a millisecond, just that little bit of time. The car pitched one way, snapped the other, and you saw what happened, and that is going to be a position loss. Darren Wicks will be happy about that. I don't know how much the front end is really affecting the steering. Let's see if we can get a look. We'll go into cockpit cam, and all the McLaren again, just all over the place. And through Cheetah, this is...
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, it wasn't good before, but this is really not good. On the bright side, they've got only just over 5 minutes to go. So.
Yep. I think
that's pretty nasty.
I think the steering's fine. I forgot I had the autopilot on. So let's see. Yeah, it's fine. I'm fairly certain if you are on the front straight at Kyalami and the McLaren, you should be reaching 6th gear. I could be wrong though.
That one would hope.
It just sounded like he was slower.
It is certainly one of the things that's affected, and they just about went in their own tire tracks and did exactly the same thing again.
You know what? We'll look at Wilson, because he's also in the McLaren right now. That thing's looking pretty pristine as he goes around Craig Pocket. So let's go cockpit just so we get the full experience. Of course, Wilson. I mean, this guy is an absolute threat to every sense of the word on track. So now he's in 5th. Does he reach 6th?
Oh, never mind.
No. Okay, so he is... I think he is faster, though. I think he is faster. So maybe there is some damage that is playing a part in Sanchez's woes, but if it is, it's minute.
There's also that worry after you've crashed, too, where you're not sure how bad it's going to be, so maybe you take it easy for a couple corners, and sometimes taking it easy in a corner can cause understeer and make you think you've got more damage than you do, and that spirals, but they have had an exciting race. They're going to be tired at the end of this one.
Yep, and Tim Brook losing 5th position to Michael Landry in the meantime, so Landry into the top 5. He's just got about 3.5 minutes to go here. I don't know if that was I would assume a move into turn 2, even though it should be turn number 1. I'm really upset about that. I don't get why the kink in the road is considered a turn.
Yes.
Okay, that's a great I assume that's what the track builder's explanation was. So I was like, yep.
Yes, it is. Yeah, my opinion is that if you can't make a pass there, it's not a corner. And I don't see anybody making a move at the kink. So.
Well, we've seen, I mean, if you get a good exit out of the final turn, you can, use a slipstream, get a run, and make the move stick. Yeah. But I think you mean more like,
it's
going for a move.
It's not a move though. It's passing somebody on a straight. It's not you're not dive bombing anybody at the kink.
Yeah. Nah, see now if someone's gonna do that, they're gonna find a way to dive bomb at the kink. Unless, well, if we get Mulligan here, we could. If we got the Mr. Man in here, we could maybe see it happen. But for right now, we have just about 2.5 minutes to go here for the Simrigs Sprint Series North American Division. It is Lovering still leading the pack with Clifford, Wilson, Carpenter, and Landry top 10. Tim Brook just losing that spot a moment ago. Portis, Freitas, Augusto, and Wicks, your top 10. 22 cars have entered, and as it stands, only 18 are going to be leaving. Pocket has been in the pit lane for a while, and to give a bit of an update on Brian Rasko, who was one of the drivers we lost, to quote him, he says, "I'm sorry if I collected anybody in the opening lap of that race. My video card gave out mid-corner."
Oh.
So that's... I don't think he collected anyone, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think he did a pretty good job of, well, being blind and not killing anybody. We'll see.
Not only unfortunate, that's also expensive.
That is.
So that's unfortunate to hear.
Oh, and surely the pit lane. That's interesting. Maybe not enough fuel to get to the end of the race. But end of the race is going to be coming up very soon for this man right here. Skylar Lovering is going to cross the line with 1 minute and 15 seconds to go. So this will be the final lap. Drivers should have gotten the notification. Kenneth Portis and Mateus Freitas. It is Honda versus Ferrari. These guys have been pretty close to each other for a long time, and maybe the Brazilian can get something and find a silver class driver in that top 7 to break up the white wall of the pros. Into Cheetah. The Honda does it pretty well, so does the Ferrari. The horse is quick. That Honda's going to be a little bit quicker into the final turn. It's almost a slight crisscross there from the 88, but blocked off well from Portis, and because of that, he does get a better exit out of the final turn and onto the front straight again through the King turn 1. They are going to be separated by just about half a second here. It is final lap. The 88 so late on the brakes. How much does he pull in? I don't think it's that much. In fact, it actually is pretty good because he just cut that lead in half. It's 0.3. Slightly later again, different lines, and he's wide on the grass. He's bouncing around. Portis, for the time being, he can breathe, but for how much longer?
That's an interesting one because we've got Freitas hitting every apex, and it looks like it looks to me as though Portis is struggling to get that car down to the apexes. And unfortunately, we have another DSQ, I believe, at the back of the pack.
Yeah, for Gusto was actually a bit higher up. I'm not certain what that's all about, but that's something else. But in the meantime, Lovering continues the win streak here at Kyalami. Jonathan Clifford has survived and has made it into position number 2. He is going to round that corner for the podium. Wilson as well. Great race from all these guys. Carpenter is coming home now, and Landry, 5th place, just gets around Tim Brook, and up ahead is the BMW of Hernandez. There's Pocket in the background. Portis and Freitas. The rain just coming down right at the end. I knew it. So unfortunately, there's not going to be a wet weather finish, but Portis has held on. It said for a moment in broadcast control, they both stopped. I was wondering if that was true. But into the final corner, Freitas, hold on, he may have a final bit of breath, and he's just not. It's going to get gut punched out of him. But hey, in 8th place is a great result for him. Darren Wicks for Greenlight Racing will find himself, just wait till he gets through this turn, thank you. He will find himself in position number 9, and Sanchez, despite the damage, hasn't lost a lot of time, so he'll finish in 10th.
And the top Pro-Am finish for Wicks there, and in a moment we're going to get our top Am finisher.
Oh, there's Pocket.
Again, we'll wait until they're around the corner to declare it, but it's looking pretty solid. That was a
Fernandez. Okay, so a little bit of heart in the throat moment there. In Pocket.
Oh, it's not done yet.
Final corner. No, he spins it, but I think that was his own accord. Bonks the wall. Craig Pocket. You know what? I gotta give him. I gotta give him a hand for that. I'm gonna give him a little bit of a round of applause just for some style points to make him feel better.
All the credit in the world to everybody tonight, especially the new drivers, for grinding through that. We saw that was rough. There was a lot of casualties tonight, and to see those folks that did stick around do so is amazing. Dominant win again, and sometimes we don't talk about the people at the front enough because they drive away. The answer to my question was no. Clifford could not close the gap. In fact, the last 5 to 10 laps of the race, it opened up to almost 20 seconds. So complete and utter dominance from Loverink, and the rest of them have got to be scratching their heads at this point.
Well, I mean, when you're someone who's signed with John Lacey Esports, you have your reason. Loverink, though, home 21.14 seconds over fellow Lamborghini driver Clifford. It's Andrew Wilson on the podium. Just about a second and a half back from second place. Then it's Carpenter, Landry, Brook, Portis, Freitas, Wicks, and Sanchez, your top 10. For the Pro-Ams, it's Darren Wicks who will be sitting atop the black classification podium. Lanham, P2. Fortunate race for him. He was doing really well until later on, about midway. Then it's Shirley and Pocket. They'll finish 1, 2, and 3 laps down, respectively. In the amateurs, Fernandez decides that it's his turn up top, followed by Hernandez. Suddendorf, in his first race out, is going to pick up 3rd spot in the amateur class. Then it's Miley, who we lost early on in the race, Doggins as well, and Bandera picking up a disqualification for a not cleared stop-go 30. So that is the end of his race. And then in the silvers, it's Freitas, Sanchez, and Augusto. We saw that disqualification right at the end. Not certain what that was for, but that is going to be a bit of a salty end for him. But of course, Kevin, we can't really dwell on it too long, because next week we're going to be at Monza.
Oh, yes, we are. The Citadel, what do they call it? The Church of Speed? The Cathedral of Speed?
The Temple of Speed?
Something. We're going to worship speed. That's all I'm saying. It is an incredible track, and again, many opinions are held on Monza, both positive and negative. But there's lots of passing, there's lots of speed. You get to see these cars really stretch their legs and run with very low downforce, and that's always fun watching them try to control that. So I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, I guess your opinion on Monza depends on whether or not you're in an organized league or a pub lobby, because I know exactly where my opinion sits, but we don't need to get into that.
I've seen some very high-end esports races to turn 1 in Monza, which put public lobbies to shame. So I'm not going to claim that it's only pub lobbies where things go wrong.
All right. Well, I'll take your word for it. I have a slightly different opinion, but we can debate that until the inevitable heat death of the universe. But before we get out of here, folks, one final shout out, of course, to Simrigs for sponsoring the 16th season of the Sprint Series, Melbourne, Australia, all of that big, beautiful island nation, and that little itty-bitty one of New Zealand. You guys are pretty much all set on the list of shipping. If you're outside of that, well, if you send them an email, they'd be happy to help you out. Wheels, pedals, bases, seats, gloves, literally anything you can imagine for a sim rig. Well, Simrigs has got you covered. And if you're a Patreon member, you guys are going to be getting 5% off your in-store purchases, so do take advantage of that because, well, like I've said 100 times, and I'll say it again, sim racing is not the cheapest hobby to get into. It's definitely one that's going to put a hole in your wallet, so you better be prepared. But again, thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring another season of the Sprint Series. We hope to see them again in the near future as well. But Kevin, any final closing statements before we get out of here?
We saw utter dominance tonight, which is one thing we're kind of used to seeing, but what I noticed tonight was the intensity is ramping up. We're only third race into third or fourth weekend into this series, and they're going hard from lap 1, turn 1, right to the end of every race. So that tells me they're committed and they really are enjoying what they're doing. So the end result is we get to announce some very exciting racing.
Couldn't have said it better myself, but folks, get ready next week. 70 minutes at Monza, 3 mandatory stops, but on behalf of myself, Kevin Parody, and of course, everybody here at the OOR, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed your stay. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so. Follow us on Twitch as well, Octane Online Racing. We have, of course, races across the North American, EU, and AP regions. But that'll do it for us here tonight. As always, folks, stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you next time.